I can fix all his problems. Yes, I can turn him into a better person. Marcus isn't a bad person, but he's having a hard time. Welcome to Deeper Love Story Hub. If you love emotional, inspiring, and life-changing stories like this one, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. Your support helps this channel grow and bring more meaningful stories to life. Amara always believed that if she worked very hard at her job, she would be happy. She thought that if she was patient and kind, her life would be perfect. She was very good at her work, but she felt lonely when she went home at night. While her friends were getting married, Amara was still waiting. She was 29, and she worried that time was running out. She acted like everything was fine at the office, but her home felt very quiet. She was tired of being by herself. She just wanted someone to love. That was when she met Marcus at the office. They worked at the same company, and he had a great smile. Amara thought he was the one, but he was hiding a lot of trouble that she did not see yet. Amara loved her life at the office. She was the best at her job. Her desk was always clean, and she finished all her work on time. Everyone at the company knew that Amara could solve any problem. When she walked down the hall, she walked with her head held high. She felt strong and smart. But when she sat at her desk, she sometimes looked out the window and felt a little sad. She was successful, but she felt like something was missing. Then there was Marcus. Marcus worked in the same office. He was charming and funny. When he walked into a room, everyone seemed to smile. He and Amara started eating lunch together every day. He told her she was the smartest woman he had ever met. Amara felt like she was floating on a cloud. She thought Marcus was the perfect man. He was handsome, he talked about big dreams, and he made her laugh when she was tired from long meetings. But there was a side of Marcus that was hard to understand. Sometimes he would come to work looking very worried. He would ask Amara to help him finish his reports. He would say he had bad luck or that his bank account was low because of a family problem. Amara always helped him. She thought, he is a good man who is just having a rough time. She believed that if she was a good partner, she could help him become his best self. At night, Amara would stay late at the office. She would work on her own projects and also fix the mistakes Marcus made. She was exhausted, but she did not mind. She told herself that love was about helping each other. She ignored the way her heart beat fast with worry. She ignored the fact that Marcus never seemed to fix his own problems. She thought, if I work harder and love him more, everything will get better. Naomi, her best friend, came by one Friday evening. She saw Amara at her desk, surrounded by piles of papers and cold coffee. Naomi looked at the messy stack of bills on the corner of the desk. She looked at Amara's tired eyes. Amara, Naomi said, why are you doing his work again? You are the star of this company, not his teacher. Amara just smiled and looked away. She felt a little hurt that Naomi did not see how much she loved Marcus. He just needs a little time, Naomi, Amara said. I love him, and I know he will be great. Amara kept working. She felt like she was building a beautiful home, but she did not see that the floor was made of glass. She was so sure that her hard work could fix Marcus. She was so sure that love was enough. She did not know that she was walking into a storm. The office was busy the next morning. Amara sat at her desk, but her head felt heavy. She had spent most of the night fixing Marcus's work again. When Marcus walked in, he did not look at her. He went straight to his desk and slammed his bag down. He looked angry, and his face was red. Amara felt a little scared. She stood up and walked over to him. Is everything okay, Marcus? She asked softly. Marcus looked at her and sighed. He told her that he had a big fight with his landlord. He said he had no place to live because he was short on rent money. He looked so sad that Amara felt her heart break for him. She reached into her purse and took out her card. Take this, she said. Please, just pay it and stay safe. Marcus smiled, but his eyes did not look happy. He took the money and left the office quickly, without saying thank you. Naomi had been watching from across the room. She walked over to Amara. She looked worried. Amara, did you just give him more money? She asked. Naomi had always been a good friend, and she always told the truth. Amara nodded. Naomi shook her head. I see how he treats you. He only talks to you when he needs something. He never asks how your day was. He never brings you coffee. He only brings you problems. He does not treat you like a partner who he respects. Amara felt her face get hot. She did not want to hear this. He is having a hard time, Naomi, Amara said. He is not being mean on purpose. Naomi looked at Amara with sad eyes. I know you love him, but love should be like a strong bridge. This bridge is broken, and you are the only one holding it up. Look at him, Amara. Amara looked over at Marcus. He was laughing loudly with some friends. He did not look like a man who had lost his home. He looked like he was having a great time. Amara felt a cold chill run down her back. It did not make sense. Naomi put a hand on Amara's shoulder. He acts one way with you, and another way with everyone else. Please look closer at his actions instead of just his words. Later that day, Marcus came back to Amara's desk. He didn't ask about the money. Instead, he started complaining about his boss. He said his boss was unfair and that he might quit. Amara felt tired. She had heard this story many times before. She wanted to tell him to be brave, but her voice felt stuck in her throat. She looked at the bills on her desk and then at Marcus. For the first time, she wondered if Naomi was right. Was Marcus just taking from her? She pushed the thought away because it hurt too much to think that her perfect love was not perfect at all. She truly wanted to believe that everything would change soon. Amara felt like her head was spinning. She had stayed at the office late again, trying to finish her own work and Marcus's work too. The office was very quiet, and the only light came from her computer screen. Just as she was about to pack her bag, Caleb, her mentor, walked by. Caleb was a wise man who had worked at the company for many years. He always wore a kind smile, but tonight, his face looked very serious. Amara, he said softly, walking over to her desk. I see you working late every single night. You are very good at your job, but you look tired. You do not look like the bright, happy woman I hired. Amara sighed and looked down at her hands. She did not want to talk about Marcus, but she felt like she might cry if she stayed quiet. I am just trying to help Caleb, she whispered. Everyone goes through hard times. I just want to be a good partner to Marcus. I know that if I love him enough, he will become the man he is supposed to be. Caleb pulled up a chair and sat down next to her. He didn't look angry. He looked like a father who wanted to protect his child. Amara, he said gently, I have lived a long time. I have learned that love is not a magic wand. You cannot use your love to change someone's heart if they do not want to change themselves. Amara shook her head. But he is a good person deep down, she said. Caleb nodded. A good person shows their goodness through their actions, not just their promises. You are looking at how you feel about him, but you are not looking at his character. Character is who he is when no one is watching. Does he work hard? Does he tell the truth? Does he treat you with the same love you give him? If the answer is no, then your feelings are just covering up the truth. Amara felt a lump in her throat. She thought about the money she gave Marcus and how he never said thank you. She thought about how he complained about his boss but never tried to do better. Caleb was saying exactly what Naomi had said, but it sounded even heavier coming from him. He is hurting, Caleb, she said, though her voice was shaking. Pain is not an excuse to take advantage of someone else, Caleb replied kindly. You have a big heart, Amara, but you are giving it to someone who is only taking pieces of it. You are a star, but you are letting yourself grow dim. Please, open your eyes. You cannot build a house on sand. You need to look at his heart, not just your own feelings. Amara sat in the dark room, thinking about his words. She knew Caleb was right. The truth felt like a heavy weight, and for the first time, she was afraid to look at it. The next morning, Amara arrived at the office early. She felt like she could still hear Caleb's words in her ears. She wanted to be strong, but her heart was still tied to Marcus. As she walked to her desk, she saw a group of people standing near the front office. They were talking in loud voices, and one man was holding a stack of official-looking papers. Amara felt a sudden, cold fear in her stomach. She recognized the man as a lawyer from a firm that dealt with money and debts. When she turned the corner, she saw Marcus sitting at his desk. He looked very pale and was shaking. The man with the papers walked straight to him. "Marcus," the man said, "you are in big trouble. We have found out that money is missing from the company account." Amara's eyes went wide. She stepped closer, her breath catching in her throat. Marcus looked up at her, and his eyes were filled with tears. He looked like a little boy who had been caught doing something wrong. "Amara, please," Marcus whispered. He stood up and grabbed her hands. He told her that he had made a mistake with the company money to pay off some old debts. He said he was scared and did not know what else to do. He begged her to tell the office manager that she had helped him with the account. He wanted her to say that it was just a small error that they both made together. "If you don't help me, I will go to jail," Marcus cried. "You are the only one who can save me. I thought we were a team." Amara felt like the floor was falling away from beneath her. She was a hard worker. She had a good name at this company. If she said she was part of this mistake, she could lose her job and her good name forever. But Marcus was looking at her with so much hope and fear that she could not look away. She thought about all the times she tried to help him. She thought about the money she had already given him. Now he was asking her to risk her whole life for his mistake. She looked at the man from the law firm, then back at Marcus. She felt dizzy. Her hands were cold, and her heart beat so fast it hurt. She wanted to say no, but the words would not come out. She saw the fear in Marcus's eyes, and she felt that old need to fix things for him. Is this really happening? She thought. She knew that if she lied, she would be trapped in his mess. But if she told the truth, she would lose the man she thought she loved. She stood there, silent and shaking, while the weight of his choice landed right on her shoulders. Amara stood frozen as the lawyer waited for her answer. The room felt very small and quiet. She looked at Marcus, who was trembling. She knew that lying was wrong, but her love for him felt like a heavy chain she could not break. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She decided to tell the office manager that it was a simple mistake they had both made. When the manager heard this, he was very angry and disappointed. He told them both that they were in big trouble and that they might lose their jobs. After the office was empty and the sun had gone down, Amara sat alone at her desk. She felt like she had lost everything she had worked so hard for. Then, Marcus walked over to her. He knelt down beside her chair and held her hands. He looked so sorry that Amara felt her heart melt all over again. He told her that he was so thankful for what she did. He cried and promised her that he would never make another mistake as long as he lived. He said that this was his big wake-up call and that he wanted to be the man she deserved. "I am so sorry, Amara," he whispered. "I was lost, but you saved me. From today, I am going to change everything. I will pay you back every cent, and I will be the hardest worker in this office. I promise to be the man you always wanted." Amara looked into his eyes and saw the man she fell in love with. She wanted to believe him more than anything in the world. She pushed away the memory of what the manager said about her losing her job. She pushed away the memory of what Caleb and Naomi warned her about. She told herself that everyone makes mistakes and that Marcus just needed someone to believe in him. She felt that her love was the magic key that would open the door to a new, happy life. "I believe you, Marcus," Amara said softly. She wiped her tears and felt a little bit of hope grow in her chest. She thought that if they worked together, they could fix this mess. She believed that love could cover all his flaws and that he would finally be the partner she dreamed of having. She stood up and hugged him, feeling like they were finally on the same side. She did not know that she was only digging the hole deeper for herself. She was so sure that she could fix him, but she was ignoring the truth that you cannot fix someone who does not want to be fixed. She was still trapped in the illusion that love was enough to make everything right. She felt safe, unaware that her world was about to break. Weeks passed, and Amara soon realized that Marcus had not changed at all. He promised to work harder, but he was always late and tired. He told Amara that his head hurt or that he was feeling sick, so he would go home early. Amara stayed at her desk for many extra hours every day. She had to finish all of her work, and she also had to finish everything that Marcus left behind. She felt like she was running a race that had no finish line. Her eyes were always red from lack of sleep, and her hands shook when she held her pen. She stopped eating lunch because she was too busy helping Marcus. At the office, the boss began to notice that Amara was not doing her best work. Amara was usually the star of the team, but now she was making small mistakes because she was so exhausted. One day, her boss called her into his office. He looked at her and asked why she seemed so distracted. Amara felt like she was going to cry, but she stayed quiet. She did not want to tell him the truth about Marcus. She felt like she had to protect him, even though he was the reason her life was falling apart. She told her boss she was just tired and promised to do better. When she went home, Amara felt lonely and sad. She tried to talk to Marcus about how she felt, but he would just change the subject. He would talk about a new game he wanted to play or a trip he wanted to take. He never asked if she was okay. He never told her that he was sorry for making her work so hard. Amara started to feel like she was living in a different world than everyone else. She saw her friends posting pictures on social media of their happy, quiet lives. She felt a deep, dark sadness growing in her heart. She was 29 years old, but she felt much, much older. Naomi stopped coming by as much as she used to. Amara knew why. Naomi had warned her so many times that Marcus was not a good person, but Amara had not listened. Now, Amara felt too ashamed to call Naomi. She felt like she had built a wall of secrets around herself, and she did not know how to break it down. Her mental health was suffering, and she felt like she was drowning in the sea of her own choices. She sat on her bed at night and stared at the ceiling, wondering when the nightmare would end. She had thought that her love was strong enough to fix Marcus, but now she finally understood that her love was only making her very sick. The office was cold and very quiet at midnight. Amara sat at her desk. Her head hurt, and she felt a deep pain in her heart. She looked at the piles of papers, bills, and legal notices spread out across her desk. Every single paper was a reminder that she was losing control of her life. She was a woman who used to be proud of her work, but now she felt like a stranger to herself. Her eyes were puffy from crying, and her hand rested on her forehead as she tried to keep from falling apart. Amara looked at her laptop screen. There were emails from her boss about missed deadlines. There were messages from the bank about money that she did not have. She realized that everything she had worked for was now gone because she tried to save Marcus. She had given him her time, her energy, and her hard-earned money. In return, she had received nothing but stress and secrets. She was exhausted, and for the first time, she finally understood that she was drowning. She whispered the words that had become her dark prayer. "But I love him." But as she said it, the words felt empty. They did not feel like a shield anymore. They felt like a heavy stone pulling her down into deep water. She thought about Naomi's warnings and Caleb's kind advice. She had been so sure that she could fix Marcus, but he did not want to be fixed. He was happy to watch her work while he played. He was happy to take what she had until there was nothing left for her. Amara looked around the dark office. She felt completely alone. The city lights outside the window looked like tiny, uncaring stars. She realized that if she kept living this way, she would lose herself entirely. Her professional life was broken, and her spirit was crushed. She was a high achiever who had failed to achieve the only thing that mattered, her own peace and safety. She finally stopped making excuses for Marcus. A single tear fell onto a pile of unpaid bills. She was finally awake, and the truth was hard to face. She had thought her love was a bridge to a better life, but it was really a trap. She was drowning in the choices of another person, and the water was rising quickly. She knew she had to swim toward the shore, even if it meant leaving Marcus behind. She could not breathe anymore. She had to choose between his happiness and her own life. As the office clock ticked loudly in the dark, Amara made the choice that she was finally ready to save herself. The next morning, the sun felt too bright for Amara's tired eyes. She had not slept at all, but she walked into the office feeling different. She was quiet, and her heart felt heavy but firm. She sat at her desk and began to organize her papers, deciding for the first time that she would no longer do Marcus's work. She did not even look his way when he walked in. She was finally ready to face the truth. Before she could even type her first email, Naomi and Caleb appeared at her desk. They looked at each other, and then at Amara. They had come together because they knew she was in trouble, and they could not stay silent any longer. Naomi pulled up a chair and took Amara's hand. Her eyes were full of love, but they were also very stern. Amara, we are not going to be quiet today, Naomi said. We have watched you fade away for months. You are the strongest, brightest woman we know, but you are letting someone pull you down into the dark. Caleb nodded and stood close by. He leaned in, his voice kind but serious. I have seen many people lose their way in this office, he told her. But I have never seen someone as talented as you throw away their future for someone who does not value them. Marcus is not just having a hard time. He is a weight, and he is dragging you down to the bottom of the sea. Amara looked at her two friends. She wanted to say that they were wrong, but the words would not come. She felt a wave of relief just hearing them say what she had been afraid to think herself. Naomi pointed to the stack of bills and the legal notices that still sat on the corner of the desk. You are paying for his life with your own happiness, she said. He does not care that you are working until midnight. He does not care that your health is failing. He only cares that you are there to clean up his mess. That is not love, Amara. That is a trap. Caleb placed a hand on the desk. We are not telling you this to be mean, he added. We are telling you because we love you, and we cannot watch you break into pieces. You are a jewel, and you are acting like you are made of sand. You must stop protecting him. You must stop fixing his mistakes. If you do not change your path today, you will lose everything you have worked for. Amara finally let the tears fall. She nodded because she knew they were speaking the truth. For the first time, she did not try to defend Marcus. She just listened, feeling the weight of their words helping her stand up again. She finally understood that letting go of Marcus was the only way to save her own life. Amara felt a new kind of strength growing in her chest. She stood up, wiped her eyes, and looked at her friends. She knew they were right. She thanked them for their honesty and told them she was ready to talk to Marcus. She walked over to his desk. He was busy looking at his phone, laughing at something on the screen. He did not look like a man who had almost cost her career. He looked like he was having a very easy day, while she had spent weeks living in a nightmare. Marcus, we need to talk, Amara said. Her voice was steady and quiet. Marcus looked up, surprised by how serious she sounded. He gave her a lazy smile and started to tell a joke, but Amara did not laugh. She stared at him and waited for the room to get quiet. I am not going to do your work anymore, she said. And I am not going to pay for your mistakes. I have been looking at our relationship, and I see now that you do not care about me at all. You only care about what you can get from me. Marcus stood up, his face changing from a smile to a look of anger. He tried to act hurt. Amara, what are you talking about?
I thought we were a team, he said.
He tried to touch her arm, but she stepped back. A team helps each other, Amara said. A team does not let one person carry all the weight. You lie, you take my money, and you expect me to fix everything you break. That is not love. That is just being mean. I want to know why you think it is okay to treat me this way. Marcus started to get loud. He said that she was being unfair and that she did not understand how hard his life was. But for the first time, Amara did not feel bad. She did not feel the need to say she was sorry. She looked at him and saw him for who he really was. He was not a broken man who needed her help. He was a person who chose to be selfish every single day. She saw that his charm was just a mask. I am not asking for an excuse, Amara said firmly. I am asking you to be an honest person. But I know you cannot do that. You do not have the character to be a good partner. Marcus looked at her, his face dark with rage, but he had nothing to say because she had finally told the truth. Amara felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders. She turned her back on him and walked away, knowing that she had finally chosen her own future over his lies. She was finally free. Amara walked away from Marcus's desk with her head held high, but inside, she felt like she was falling apart. She went to her own desk, sat down, and stared at her computer screen. The office seemed to move in slow motion around her. She knew she had done the right thing, but it felt like she had cut off a part of her own heart. Her hands were shaking so hard that she had to put them in her lap. For a long time, Marcus had been the first person she thought of when she woke up and the last person she thought of before she went to sleep. Now, she had to learn how to exist without him. The hours that followed were the hardest of her entire life. Every time the phone rang, her heart jumped, hoping it was Marcus calling to apologize or tell her he had changed. Every time someone walked past her desk, she looked up, half expecting to see his face. She felt a strange, sharp pain in her chest, like she was missing something she needed to breathe. It was an agony that she had never known before. It was the feeling of letting go of a dream, even though the dream had become a nightmare. She felt weak, and she wanted more than anything to go back to him and fix things, just to stop the pain. She knew this was the withdrawal of love. She had given so much of herself to Marcus that she didn't know who she was without him. She was like a plant that had grown around a cold stone. Now that the stone was gone, she felt like she would fall over. She walked to the break room to get a glass of water, and her legs felt like they were made of lead. She caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror, and she looked tired and pale. She realized that she had been starving herself of joy for a long time. She was lonely, she was sad, and she was scared of the quiet, but she was also beginning to feel a tiny spark of freedom. She walked back to her desk and packed her things into a box. She decided that she needed to go home and be by herself. As she walked out of the office building, the cool air hit her face, and she took a deep breath. She didn't know what she would do tomorrow or how she would pay her bills, but for the first time in a year, she didn't have to worry about Marcus. She didn't have to fix his problems or lie to her boss. She walked to her car, her heart still hurting with every step, but her mind was clearer than it had been in months. She got into her car and sat in the silence. She cried until her eyes hurt, letting all the sorrow come out. She missed the man she thought Marcus was, and she missed the life she had hoped they would build together. But she also knew that the man she loved was just a mask he wore. The real Marcus had only taken from her. She turned the key in the ignition, and as the engine started, she felt a small sense of hope. She was going home, she was going to be alone, and she was going to survive. It was the beginning of her new life, a life where she was finally free to be her own person again, without the heavy weight of someone else's broken life pulling her down into the darkness. She was alone, but she was finally starting to heal. The days that followed felt long and very quiet. Amara stayed at home, away from the busy office and away from the person who had taken so much of her time. Her apartment, which used to feel like a place of stress and worry, began to feel like a soft, safe nest. At first, she just wanted to sleep. Her body was tired from months of working for two people, and her mind was tired from carrying all of Marcus's secrets. She spent hours sitting by her window, watching the city below, feeling like she was a person watching a movie instead of living in it. This was her time in the wilderness, a quiet place where she had to learn how to be just Amara again. She found herself missing Marcus when the sun went down. She missed having someone to talk to, even if that person was the one who had hurt her the most. There were nights when she almost reached for her phone to send a text, just to break the silence. But then she would remember the feeling of fear when the lawyer came to the office. She would remember how Marcus never said thank you and how he never once asked if she was okay. Those memories were like cold water, and they helped her put the phone down. She was grieving the dream of the man she thought she loved, but she was slowly waking up to the reality of the man who was actually there. She started to do small things for herself. She bought fresh flowers for her kitchen table. She started to cook healthy meals instead of just grabbing a snack while working on Marcus's reports. She pulled out the books she used to love reading before she met him. These were not big things, but to Amara, they felt like magic. Every book she read and every meal she cooked was a way of saying, "I am here and I matter." She began to write in a notebook every morning. She wrote about her dreams, her fears, and the things she wanted to do now that she was free. It felt good to see her own thoughts on paper. For a long time, her life had been about someone else, but now, every page belonged only to her. She also started to go for walks in the park nearby. She watched the people around her, Families laughing, friends talking, and people just enjoying the sunlight. She realized that the world was still turning, and there was so much beauty she had missed because she was too busy fixing Marcus's mistakes. She felt like she was learning how to walk again, one step at a time. Her identity, which had been lost in the noise of his problems, was finally starting to show itself again. She remembered that she liked the sound of the wind, the taste of hot coffee, and the feeling of a clean, organized desk. She was not just a helper or a fixer. She was Amara, and she was enough all by herself. Healing was not easy, and some days were still very sad. There were times when she would sit on her couch and cry because she felt so lonely. But even then, she knew that being lonely was much better than being with someone who made her feel small. She was learning that it is better to be by yourself and be peaceful than to be with someone and be in a constant, painful storm. She was in the wilderness, but she was not lost anymore. She was growing, she was learning, and she was getting stronger every single day. She was building a new life, and this time, the floor was not made of glass. It was made of solid ground. She was finding her way back to the woman she was meant to be, and she knew that, in time, she would be ready to shine brighter than ever before. The morning light felt different now. It was not just light, it was a promise. Amara sat by her kitchen window, holding a warm cup of coffee. The city outside was waking up, but she did not feel the usual rush of stress in her chest. For months, her life had been a frantic race against problems that were not even her own. Now, the quiet of the morning felt like a precious gift. She looked at her small, clean apartment and felt a deep sense of peace. She had finally learned that peace was not something she had to fight for. It was something she could choose to have. She realized that this inner quiet was a blessing from God, a gift of grace that had been waiting for her all along. She had spent weeks in the wilderness of her own healing. It had been hard to face the truth, but it was the most important thing she had ever done. She remembered how she used to feel, tired, scared, and constantly worried about what Marcus would do next. She looked back at that time now, not with anger, but with a clear understanding. She saw that she had been trying to fix a broken bridge with her own heart, forgetting that God is the only one who can truly heal what is broken. She had been giving away pieces of herself to someone who did not know how to hold them. Now, she understood that she was not a fixer. She was a daughter of God. She was a woman with big dreams and a strong spirit, and she belonged to him first. Amara picked up her notebook and looked at the pages she had filled over the last few weeks. Her handwriting was steady, and her words were full of hope. She had written down her goals for the future. She wanted to work on projects that excited her and tell stories that had real meaning. She had also written about the things she loved, simple things like long walks, good books, and the sound of rain against the window. She realized that she had not just been waiting for her life to start. She had been building it every single day under God's watchful eye. She had chosen to leave behind the lies and the fear, and in doing so, she had found the woman she had been all along. Her phone buzzed on the counter, but she did not jump. She looked at it and smiled. It was just a message from a friend inviting her to lunch. There was no panic, no dread, and no secret fear that she would have to lie for someone else. She was free. This freedom felt light, like air in her lungs. She realized that she had been living in a cage made of her own good intentions, but she had finally opened the door with God's help. She thought about her job. She was still working hard, but she was working for herself now. She was no longer covering up mistakes or carrying someone else's burden. She was proud of her work again. She was back to being the bright, smart professional that Caleb had hired. She walked into the office with a new confidence. People noticed the difference. She greeted everyone with a genuine smile. When Marcus passed her in the hallway, she did not look away. She did not feel the need to hide or feel sorry. She just saw a person who was no longer a part of her life. She realized he was just a person, not the center of her world. She prayed for him silently, asking God to lead him to a path of truth. Amara knew that life would still have its ups and downs. There would still be hard days, but she was ready. She had learned the most important lesson of her life. You cannot give away all of your love to someone else if you do not save enough for yourself, and you must always keep your heart open to God's plan. Choosing herself was not selfish. It was a way to honor the life that God had given her. It was the only way she could truly grow. As she sat in her office, looking out at the skyline, she felt a profound sense of gratitude to God. She had walked through the fire and come out on the other side. She had lost a false version of love, but she had gained herself and a stronger faith. She was whole, she was happy, and she was at peace. She knew the road ahead was hers to build, one step at a time, trusting in the Lord to guide her path. The new dawn had finally come, and it was brighter than she had ever imagined it could be. She was finally at home in her own life, walking every single day with God by her side.